Hello everybody, welcome to another edition of Sonoran Reef. This week we're going to be talking about Walt Smith's Miracle Mud, how I incorporated it into my Refugium, and what are the results so far, and what I've done to verify those results, and see if it's something that you might want to add to your Refugium. So sit back, relax, let's learn a little bit about Miracle Mud. Okay everybody, today we're going to be talking about the Fiji Mud, the Walt Smith Refugium Mud. This is the Refugium starter, and the only thing that means is that this is the largest container for starting a Refugium on Miracle Mud, and that's the one that I decided to go with. Now here you can see these trays. These trays are what I had the Miracle Mud in last time, and you can still see some remnants of the mud here. And the mud that I bought last time wasn't mud. It was like almost like a sand. It was completely dry when I purchased it, and wasn't very impressed, so I stopped using it. But we're going to try it again. We're going to try it a little bit differently this time. Number one, we're going to use real mud, and we're going to use these trays. On top of the trays, we're going to use this egg crate tray that's going to help the algae grab onto something. So that'll just sit right on top of the tray that I've already made. Should make a pretty big difference, I think, but we're going to give it a try, see what happens. But that's the plan. So whenever you're doing aquarium work, you always want to make sure that you have as much help as you can get. And while I'm doing other things, my son is helping me cut out the pieces for these trays. He loves building things, and it gives us something to do together. So here he is helping me put the trays together. He's ready to go. Now here's the Miracle Mud itself. Now, when I opened it up, I was surprised it was actually mud. But I mean, this stuff is like wet cement. It's heavy, it's dense. Much different. There's water on the outside of the bag. I think they must literally just scoop this up from the ocean and put it in the bag, because there's no other way that you could do this. So here it is out of the bag. It's really, really thick, and it's got some different coloring in it. I don't know if the camera's picking that up, but there's no way that this is man-made. This is as advertised, coming off the floor of the ocean. So here we've spread everything out. There were some chunks of stuff in the mud. I come to find out that those were coral pieces later, verifying what I thought, that this stuff is coming right out of the ocean, and not made in some fabrication facility somewhere. So as advertised, but you know, in today's world, you never can trust anything. Here are the trays. I've gone ahead and put them in the Refugium after cleaning it out, and we're going to try to kind of reboot this thing here a little bit with my new trays. So here are the new trays, and like I said, the idea is that algae is going to be able to grab onto these egg crate trays, not disturb the Miracle Mud underneath, so I don't lose it when I'm pulling out handfuls of algae. That's the dream, pulling out handfuls of algae. I don't know if it's going to happen yet or not, but that's the plan. So there you go. We'll get some water in this thing, and I'll put some live rock on the top to help seed this Refugium from the main display, and let's get this thing going. So I talked about pulling coral. That's a piece of coral that came right out of the Fiji Miracle Mud there. I guess I need to start calling it Fiji only. So here's what the Fiji mud looks like in the Refugium. You can see there it is in the tray, and the algae is on the egg crate. There it is in the tray again. So you can see it won't be disturbed. allow all sorts of things to bury themselves in the sand, reproduce, spread out throughout the refugium, and hopefully go into the main display tank, which is the goal. So here's the top view. You can see I've taken 2 pieces of live rock just to help weigh down the egg crate, and I've put in all of the different algae that were growing in the refugium, playing around with the light a little bit. Hopefully you can see it a little bit better. But here we have it. So I have a couple different chaetos and some other kinds of algae in here. We're just going to let it all grow, see what grows best, and not really concerned. I want this whole thing full of algae if at all possible. So here's just another view, kind of showing you a little bit from the side, but not quite so low. Just really getting a good starting off point. You can see I threw that little piece of coral back in the refugium there, and getting ready to let this thing go for a week and see what happens. So it's been a week, and you can see that we've got quite a bit of growth. I mean, more growth than I have ever had in this refugium before. Now, I know it's not the egg crate. I'd like to think that my genius idea did it, but look at the difference. You can see in the upper left-hand corner, same shot from a week ago. That's 1 week of algae growth, everybody. That's amazing. Okay, so what are my thoughts on the Walt Smith's Fiji Mud? I'm very impressed with the amount of growth that I'm getting out of that refugium. I've had that refugium up and running for about a month. Now I had it running with that Kessel H80 that I did a previous review on, and before that it was just eShop's Refugium Light. The difference between the eShop's Refugium Light and the Kessel H80 was 10% of the difference that just this Miracle Mud, putting that in the refugium, is just huge amount of growth. I would guess that I'm going to have to start taking some of the algae out here within a couple of weeks. I think it's just going to completely fill it up, and I won't have the ability to have any flow in that section unless I start removing algae, which is great. That's what I want. I've had a slight decrease in my nitrates. So I think we have some actual nitrates turning into nitrogen gas, but I'm running 0 right now. And phosphates haven't changed much. They're still relatively low, but I do so much feeding, they're not going to be at 0. And I wouldn't want them to be at 0. So that said, that's some of the tests that you might consider. Okay, Charlie, give me some science, not just your observations. And you know that I want to do that for you guys. I always try to do my very best when I'm doing these product reviews to maybe give you something that someone else hasn't yet. And when I did a YouTube search for product reviews for Walt Smith's Refugium Mud, there wasn't much. The one review that I did find, I didn't think was very scientific. It was kind of just his observations, and I didn't really think his observations even reflected what was in his video. So hope that people who are interested in the product are seeing this. I'm rambling a little bit, I apologize. Let's get back to the tests. So I went out and I purchased this Red Sea Trace Elements test kit, and I ran the tests before I started the refugium. I ran the tests right before I added the Miracle Mud, and there was no change between those 2 dates. I then went and did the tests again at the 1 week mark where I took that second video, and noticed a couple things. The first thing is that the iodine level had stabilized and was exactly where it needed to be, which was great. Yay me. It was, exactly where it wanted to be. That saves me from having to add one of my Red Sea trace elements. Now, the one I was a little bit disappointed in was the iron. My tank seems to suck up iron. I have several red corals, and I believe that the red corals use iron for some of their coloration, which is why they're a little bit faded right now, as I have none in my tank. So I need to go out and probably purchase some iron additive for my tank, because the Miracle Mud doesn't seem to be helping in that regard, which is okay. Even if it was just the growth in the Refugium, I'd be happy. But Red Sea also does a potassium test, and this test I have never, even if I dump a ton of the Red Sea additives into the aquarium, I've never been able to get this test to read correctly. Even after multiple attempts, YouTubing, Google searching to make sure I was doing the test right, it always took like 4 times the amount of I'm not going to get this word right. Titration? You can correct me later. I know what the word is. But it took like 4 times as much to even get a reading. I mean, I had hardly anything in the tank. Even after I added a bunch of the additives from Red Sea, I still wasn't getting any levels. Now I am. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's measurable, and it's measurable without wasting all of the last step of the test. I mean, the test takes 25 minutes, and if you screw up one little thing, you get bupkis. So the fact that I'm actually getting a reading now at the end of the test is pretty rewarding. I don't know that I'm going to do that test every day. I don't know if I'll do that test every year, but it tells me something. So I'm going to do that test again in a couple months and see if the mud continues to add to my levels and if they stabilize where they need to be, which is what I'm hoping happens. I'm hoping that there's an equilibrium happening there. So that's about it. Again, product I would highly recommend. But I understand that it's kind of on that fringe of reef keeping, kind of where I would also put calcium reactors and things like that. It's not necessary to do it, but I'm usually a technology geek, but anything I can do to help the corals, help the tank is what I want to do. And I think this Miracle Mud, I keep calling it Miracle Mud, but it's not. It is a mud from the ocean, but it's not Miracle Mud. It's the Walt Smith Fiji Mud. I want to make sure I say that correctly. I've never tried Miracle Mud, the name brand of Miracle Mud anyway. I know it's probably one of the most popular ones out there. In looking, I couldn't find it. So at Bulk Reef Supply, this was the mud that they had. I trust them as a vendor. So that's where I purchased it from. And I was very impressed with the product. Certainly more than I was that garbage I got from my LFS a couple years ago when I tried this for the first time. So very happy, much better results. I'd recommend it to anybody who wants to get that biodiversity going in their refugium and letting those little critters bleed off into the main display. I think it's great. So I hope you enjoyed this video. It's a little bit longer, but whenever I do these product reviews, I really like to go in depth for you guys. So if you appreciate that, please like, please subscribe. It means a lot to me. It gives me the motivation when I'm tired after a long weekend and I've videotaped a bunch of stuff for the tank and I have to sit down in front of the computer now and piece it all together for you. The fact that you guys appreciate it means a lot. Had a couple people comment to me about the last product review I did, which was the nozzles. Even the owner of the company reached out to me and said how much he appreciated it and that it helped him generate some more business. So I was excited for that. Now I'm not looking for that, but if I can do a product review and it really educates the people out there, then that's what I want to do. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and please like, please subscribe, and I'll see you again next week. Keep reefing.